Welcome back to the Cakers channel. Thank you very much for joining me today. This is a channel where we do cake decorating tutorials and share cake decorating tips and tricks. Please share your cake decorating ideas with me in the comment section and check out all my other social media platforms. Today we're decorating this beautiful two-tiered football themed cake. It will be representing Manchester United and Arsenal team. So football lovers, look out for this one. We're starting with cakes that are already filled, crumb coated, and have their final layer of frosting applied. The cake is cold and I'm now applying the fondant using the paneling method. I used my fondant smoother to push out any air bubbles from underneath the fondant when I use water to apply it to the top of the cake. I let it sit in the refrigerator for 5 minutes and now I'm using an X-Acto knife to remove the edges of the fondant. This big piece of fondant, I'm rolling it out in a long rectangular shape to wrap it around the cake, the sides of the cake. I'm applying cornstarch. This is tasteless, so it will not affect the final taste of the fondant. Be sure that you have measured the side of your cake so that you can have enough fondant to overlap when you apply it to the sides. Just using my fondant smoother to rub out any imperfections that would have been created with the rolling pin. Using my X-Acto knife to make sure the bottom of the fondant is very straight. So when I apply it to the cake board, I will not have much to cut off when I'm done. Using my rolling pin, I am rolling the fondant on the pin with the bottom of the fondant being very straight, like that. Using my brush, I'm applying water to the side of the cake. This is the adhesive to help the fondant to stick to the cake. I am carefully applying the fondant to the side of the cake and ensuring that it overlaps at the back. So I would have already decided which part of my cake is the back of the cake. So I'm allowing the overlapping to be at the back, so when I cut it, even if the line is not completely erased, it will not be showing much, and other decorations can be used to cover the line if it's not perfect. I used my X-Acto knife and a ruler to cut a straight line up the back of the cake, remove the excess fondant, and now I'm pushing it together to make it as seamless as possible, using my cake smoother to help me do the job. After leaving the cake in the refrigerator for about 5 minutes, just to let the fondant firms up a bit and be easier to cut, I'm using my X-Acto blade to go around the edges, carefully removing the top excess part of the fondant, creating very sharp edges and a beautiful finish for my cake. When I'm completely happy with what I've cut away, I'm using my fondant smoother again to go around the edges to get rid of any small imperfections. I am now preparing the fondant to cover the top tier of the cake. I added the cuttings that I removed from the previous cake and I'm kneading it to make the fondant pliable and ready to be applied to the next cake. Repeating the same process for my 4-inch top tier cake, I roll out a piece of fondant and I'm cutting a small circle to put on top of the cake. I added water to stick the fondant to the cake and I'm using my fondant smoother to get rid of any air bubbles. I allowed the cake to chill in the refrigerator for about 5 minutes so that the fondant can firm up and I'm now using my X-Acto knife to go around the cake and remove the excess fondant. Look at how neat that is. After measuring the sides of my cake, the circumference of the side of the cake, I am rolling out again another long piece of fondant to wrap around the cake. I'm applying cornstarch. The cornstarch helps to prevent the fondant from sticking to itself while I'm rolling it on the rolling pin. Using water to the sides of the cake, I'm wrapping the fondant around and ensuring that it overlaps at the back of the cake. Using my X-Acto knife, I'm cutting away the excess fondant and joining the two sides of the fondant together. Using my fingers and my fondant smoother to get rid of the line as much as I can. The cake was placed in the refrigerator for about 5 minutes, and I'm using my blade to remove the excess fondant from the top. Look at those sharp edges. That's what you need when you're decorating a stunning cake. Now we are on to the fun part of this beautiful cake design. We're preparing to stack our cakes. Using the 4-inch cake tin as a guide, I'm just marking out a circle on the top of the cake, the top of my 6-inch cake, so that I can know where I'm going to be placing the 4-inch cake on top of the cake. And I'm applying some thick jumbo straws, like milkshake straws, into the bottom tier for support. You need a minimum of 4 straws to support the weight of your top tier. And make sure that your top tier cake is on a cake board that is the same size of the cake. So my 4-inch cake is on a 4-inch cake board. That will prevent the cake from collapsing. I use some buttercream to help to hold the cake in place when I am stacking them. When you have tall cakes, inserting a center dowel is very important because you don't want your cake to slide off each other. So I'm now creating a pointy tip so that I can easily push the cake dowel through the top tier of the cake, the 4-inch board that is underneath the top tier of the cake, and all the way down so that a little bit of it actually goes through the base board of the cake. This will ensure that my cake is very, very sturdy and will not be wibbly wobbly. If you're always wondering, why is that cake so shiny and pretty? Well, I use my steamer. It's a cake steamer. I just added water to it, plug it in, and it lets out some steam. That helped to get rid of all the cornstarch residue that was on the cake and cause it to look a bit foggy. If that's a word for cake decorating. It also allowed the cake to be a bit tacky, so I can go ahead and apply all my edible prints to the cake. Using an icing tip, Wilton 233, also known as the grass tip, I'm applying some grass around the top of the cake with my beautiful edible football in the middle. As you can see on my table, I have a lot of edible prints that I already applied a fondant backing to. I am just playing around with the cake and applying them to where I see comfortable. So the one cake is representing 2 teams, so I'm just sharing the sides of the cake so that the cake can be viewed from both sides and looking like 2 different cakes. So this is how I applied the fondant backing to my edible images. Using a small multiple hexagon cutter, I am cutting some black and white fondant to create the football pattern on the side of my cake. Once I did that, I steamed again not to get rid of the cornstarch this time, but just to let the cake be a bit tacky so I can apply the other edible prints to the cake. Once all my edible prints have been applied and I'm happy, I went around the bottom of the 4-inch cake and the bottom of the 6-inch cake with my grass tip again, just to let the cake look a bit more uniform. Still playing around and adding some more edible prints. Already have them, so just making use of them. To finish my cake off, I'm going around the base of the cake board with a matching ribbon. Using my hot glue gun, I'm carefully applying the ribbon to the base of the cake board. The shiny look doesn't last long, and I want to get some beautiful pictures for my cake, so I just steamed again to make it look shiny for my photos. This is how I package my cakes. My cake is on a 10-inch cake board, so I'm using a 10-inch cake box. When doing that, my cake has no chance of moving around while it's in its box. I'm using a gift wrap plastic. Yes, the same plastic wrap that you use to wrap gifts and put flowers in. I'm using that plastic wrap to create a little tent looking covering for my cake. Just look and see how I did it. I really love this packaging because it allows my cake to be seen. So when my clients are going with this cake, basically everybody is seeing it and be like, wow, that's a beautiful cake. So it doesn't hide the design. It allows the client again to feel comfortable while traveling with the cake because they're seeing the cake and they're seeing what's happening with the cake. So it provides reassurance. And it's just very stunning and very cost effective as well. So no need to buy the lids for the cake box. You just need the base of the cake box, and that's your beautiful packaging. You can add all your labels, your cake care information and everything. I am more than happy with how this beautiful cake turned out, and my clients were very, very happy. Thank you very much for staying with me to the end of this cake decorating tutorial. Please like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Until next time, keep on baking.